Every day since the beginning of the Lions Roar War, or by its American name, Epic Fury, heavy explosions have been heard over Tehran in Iran. Every piece of Revolutionary Guards infrastructure in Iran has been bombed. 2 rounds of senior Revolutionary Guards leadership have been eliminated, and even the supreme leader of the Revolutionary Guards, the most important figure, was terminated in the first hours of the opening of this war. And the United States and Israel brought in all the heavy forces from the newest and the most advanced fighter jets in the world, including the American B-2 bombers and their companions in this arena, the B-1 and also the B-52. And in addition, a 3rd aircraft carrier is on its way to the region as we are speaking, while 2 much larger aircraft carriers are already here in the Middle East. And in the state of non-stop attacks, day and night, not to mention American nuclear submarines, warships that look like they come out of a science fiction movie. This is including a firepower that's beyond the imagination, and according to the picture that is coming together up to this moment, Israel and the United States are no longer just hitting another target in Iran. They are dismantling, layer after layer, the systems that keep the Revolutionary Guard standing. So, if that is what is happening in the skies, at the sea, and on the ground, how much longer can the Revolutionary Guards in Iran hold on? Let me know what you think about this in the comments. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your ground report, where we cut through all the noise and stay with what is real. And today, we are going from the biggest headline in the Middle East to the people who are actually holding this war together and defending us. From the skies of Iran to the lines that are on the ground, from the biggest operations that we have seen to one reserve soldier who for us has become the story of the entire war. To understand this moment, you need to keep one thing in mind. Since the elimination of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, this campaign has moved from an opening blow to systematic dismantling. At first, we saw a hit on the top leadership, on the air defensive systems, and on the launch arrays. Now, we are already seeing something much broader, a strike on the entire chain of command, launch, production, funding, industry, sea. We are talking about consciousness. Since the opening of this war, according to the materials that are accumulated from the field, Israel and the United States have been operating at a pace not seen here in years. The opening blow was built like a move whose purpose was to destabilize the system from above. It went after the top leadership, the control centers, the defensive arrays, and those same points that were supposed to allow Iran to respond quickly and maintain continuity. And from there, almost without pause, the next stage began, hunting launchers. That was the race of the first days, whether Iran would succeed in launching more missiles than Israel and the United States, and who will destroy them and how fast. And according to the picture that has been built up so far, that race has been broken. It has been broken on the eve of the campaign. Iran had around 420 launchers. Now, according to the updated assessments in our hands, only about 100 active ones remain. About 150 were completely destroyed. Another approximately 150 were damaged, were buried, or put out of use, at least temporarily. In simple words, Iran has lost about 70% of its launch capabilities. And that did not happen by accident. It happened because the Israeli Air Force recorded the largest air mission in Israel's history. 3 sorties every single day. An arming pace that exceeded the standard. Ground crews returning aircraft for another sortie at an exceptional speed. Intelligence closing circles almost in real time. And deep cooperation with the Americans, especially in refueling, air management, and the ability to sustain a continuous burden over a very large arena. One achievement sums up the spirit of the last few days. Israel struck in Iran all the infrastructure, all facilities in the heart of Tehran. In addition, the Israeli Air Force hit Marhabad Airport and destroyed 16 aircrafts all at once. And according to the IDF, These were not planes that were simply standing on the ground. These were platforms used by the Quds forces to transfer weapons and cash to Hezbollah and to Iran's other proxies in the Middle East. Alongside them, Iranian fighter jets that threatened Israeli Air Force aircrafts were also attacked. This is important because this is not just another strike on an airport. It is a strike on an artery, on the line that connects Tehran to its proxies. And on a logistical route, this is what brings them money, infrastructure, training, and anything they need. It connects their funding. It connects their weapons development, their weapons deliveries. That is the story of this stage of the war, not just to hit another target, to break the sequence. And it seems that every day the targets are going deeper and deeper into Iran's military infrastructure. More industrial facilities, more damage to the production, more damage to the storage and maintenance compounds, more crushing of the industrial base and the missiles and the drones, meaning not only the one who fires, also the one who builds, the one who assembles, the one who restores, the one who brings the machine back into action. And this is where the Americans enter the full force as well. B-2s returned to operate against the underground targets. B-1s were prepared in the arena. A third aircraft carrier is making its way to the region, and the message from Washington is sharp. This is not symbolic support, and not just a few nights of strikes. This is a formation that is capable of continuing, expanding, and sustaining a campaign over time. And according to the American statements, the sea has also become an arena of decision. Washington is already talking about dozens of Iranian vessels that were destroyed, and later Trump already spoke of 42 ships in 3 days. There are also reports of a strike on the Iranian drone carrier, the crown jewel of the naval arm of Iran, and of sinking an Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka. At the same time, the United States is also building a clear message to the Houthis in Yemen. Do not enter, do not expand, do not turn the Red Sea into another front. And within all of this, Israel is not stopping only at the launchers. According to reports, additional targets were attacked in the heart of Tehran. Revolutionary Guards headquarters, Basij bases, internal security headquarters, and repression centers that are supposed to keep the Iranian streets under control. The idea is clear. If you hit both the one firing at you and the one who is supposed to suppress the streets at home, you burden the regime in two directions at the same time. And look, the Air Force is putting on a show in Tehran in these wars. After 40 years in which we had not heard of such a case, first footage was shown of an Israeli F-35 shooting down a manned Iranian fighter jet. This is not just a nice aerial achievement for the camera. This is a symbol of superiority, of freedom of action, of the understandings that at this stage, the skies over Iran are no longer being managed only like we went in and we got out. They are being managed as a presence of Israeli superiority above the entire skies. The Israeli Air Force is taking the initiative. And now look why this matters, because it is very easy to look at this war through maps, through B-2s, through F-35S, through missile launchers and burning runways. But a country does not sustain a war like this only with pilots and commando fighters. It also sustains it with people who get up in the morning for guard duty, for patrol, for border security, for another night on the line. And those people are not invisible. Right now, Israel is facing a critical moment. As we speak, the IDF has launched Operation Roaring Lion, the largest air mission in Israel's history. More than 80,000 additional reservists have been called up, joining tens of thousands already serving to defend the people of Israel. These are fathers and mothers, business owners, students, and young families who have left everything behind to stand on the front lines. But while they're protecting this nation, many of their families are facing real financial hardships back at home. That's why Friends of the IDF is stepping in, providing vital medical supplies, financial relief for reservists and their families, support for critical units like the Israeli Air Force and the Home Front Command, and emotional and also mental health support for the soldiers. So if you would like to stand with Israel at this crucial time, I want to personally invite you to take part. You can support Israel soldiers today by going to fidf.org/Yair. That's my name, Y-A-I-R. So fidf.org/Yair. Again, this is the way to stand with the IDF soldiers that have given so much to defend all of us. And 100% of the donations from this campaign will go directly to Israel to support the brave men and women defending this nation. Thank you for standing with Israel, and may God bless all of you. One of those people is someone that you already know very well. Mati Shoshani, our senior Middle East correspondent, the one who has been sitting with me for 2 years and breaking this war into its components. But while he is reporting on the war, he's also living it here. And since the war began on October 7, 2023, Mati Shoshani was been on uniform. He was in the reserves of the IDF as an officer holding the line in Judea and Samaria. Just in Lebanon a few days ago, 2 soldiers lost their lives. And that happened because of a very unhealthy situation that the IDF is positioned in now. Basically, we're not maneuvering into Lebanon because we do not have the full support of the Air Force. And we are, not backing out into Israel. So we are basically sitting. And some people call it like sitting ducks on forward positioning, waiting to have a conflict. And this is very bad. We also have it in the Gaza Strip because the forces get tired, they get relaxed, and then the terrorists on the other side can take this advantage and launch an attack against our troops, which is what happened. In this case, there was a D9 bulldozer that tried to pull a tank that got stuck backwards, and then it was hit by anti-tank missiles of Hezbollah. Can you share about the challenges of an IDF soldier that has been serving in this war, especially a reserve IDF soldier like you? I mean, you're not 18 anymore, even though everybody thinks you're maybe 21. But we are civilians that leave everything and then put a different hat, different uniform, and have a different whole life. I mean, you have a family, you have kids, and you need to leave everything, your career, your life, and go be an IDF officer.
Yeah.
Is that hard?
I think the hardest part is the families back at home. For me, I'm an adult, I'm in my 40s. At this point, it's just another month or another year of life, and it's sort of, I don't want to say it's a blip on the radar, but it's not this dramatic, heavy event. I was just talking about this to friends on the weekend. I haven't done spring with my kids in 3 years.
Wow.
And it sounds like, nothing. No, we're a family that went hiking, we're a family that went camping, we're a family that spent time together. I haven't been able to bike, hike, or travel with my family in 3 years because I've been in reserve since, on and off.
October 7th.
Since October 7th. I'm tired. I'm not to say that we're relaxed, not to say that we've run out of energy. That's not the case. Our soldiers are still very much on it as far as it comes to the mission, but it's been a heavy toll on the population, a heavy toll on the reservists. Many of these people have, time and time again, the country has called, they've come back to do this. But when you think about the overall toll on society, one, I think there's an emotional part of just being detached from life for so long. 2, there's the effect on the economy. 3, and I think the most important part is the families. My kids haven't had a father present in 3 years.
That's big.
I've been gone more than half the time for 3 years. And even when I'm home, I'm not really home. I'm recovering from something or getting ready to go back to something or try to catch up on work that's been lost for months. And I think people at home need to understand this. One, we're a fighting nation. That hasn't changed. But people get tired. And I want people at home to imagine it's not just the guy at the end, with a gun. It's the family behind them, the business behind them, And I say this on an emotional level. One of the strongest emotions I'm dealing with right now is guilt, not fatigue, not anything like that. over being absent from my family. My family, thank God, is alive and well and healthy, etc. If you zoom out and look at like the overall effect on people, there's a need to pray and support the families of this country big time, and there's a need for, what's the term in English? R&R, rest and recreation. For people. I even said to my wife, I said, like, I feel like I need a vacation after these reserves. Like, I was tired to begin with. You know, this was a month ago. And I said, after this, again, sort of the same as it was back in 24, where I need to take a couple days off and just relax after this to sort of recover and be able to come back with my best and not this, you know, this tired and tired
50%
tired and washed out version of myself to life. And I said there's also a macro story here. The macro is the economy of Israel. Again, we're an entire country where you have, and I really need to explain this. The people who lead these units are the elite of Israeli society. The guys who are the battalion commanders, they're the CEOs.
Yeah.
The guys who are the battalion commanders and the regiment commanders and reserves, they're the high school principals, and they're the leaders, and they're the father figures, etc.
Basketball captains and all.
They're those guys.
Exactly.
They've been absent from society for almost 3 years now, 2.5 years of absence, on and off, and with varying degrees of absence. And those people need to get back to their lives, and the country needs them to be back to their lives and really get rebuilding something that isn't just the war machine, but actually. We were talking about this. I'm showing my fatigue. I was going to lead with this. we were talking about this the other day, where someone said, "When was the last time that people did so much reserve service?" And I said, "Guess. When do you think the last time anyone did this number of reserve days was?"
Well,
in Israel's history.
In the מלחמת ההתשה,
Attrition, war of attrition.
War of attrition,
So
right?
war of attrition for Israel, you're right. War of attrition in Israel was the end of the Six-Day War, 67, so it started in 68, all the way through 72, where there was like a kind of ceasefire agreement with the Egyptians, where Israel had, it's hard to explain this, I don't remember the exact number, we're talking, I think, over a dozen divisions in reserves, recruited, released.
It was like 2 months a year that you go to the border with Egypt, which is in Sinai back then.
Yeah, in Sinai, but in a truck.
Yeah, in a truck.
So 2 days in a vehicle.
Exactly, just to get there.
And Israel at that time, and this is a very different country, very different economy, Israel at that time, we had several rounds of calling people to emergency reserves, and it was at the point where the country was afraid it was going to go bankrupt. Then there was pressure on it to release the reservists, and then the October 1973 attack happened, which was a surprise sort of to Israel.
Yeah, the Yom Kippur War.
Where we were caught with insufficient forces on the border. Sound familiar?
Kind of like repeats itself.
Yeah, very familiar. Why is that? Because when you're fighting a war of attrition, or a defensive posture, at one point or another, you or stop believing the threat. For 20-something years, I've been hearing that the attack is going to come from here and the attack is going to come from here, and it hasn't happened yet. Will it ever happen? And you have to convince yourself, and you have to convince your soldiers.
To convince others.
If we're not here,
to believe it.
If we're not here, the attack will happen.
Because we are here, that's why the attack is not happening,
Yeah, so it's like this very tough psychological situation. If we're not here and strong, the attack will happen. Because we're here and strong, there's never an attack. and you don't know if it's happening. Think about that. Over time, it wears on people. You really have to keep rotating them and working with them to make sure that they stay like on it as far as the mission is considered.
There is another topic that many people around the world don't talk about it. And I think that's one of the major issues that Israel, especially the IDF, will have to deal with in the next 25 years. And that's the post-traumatic stress.
Yeah.
I mean, both you and I know soldiers that are suffering from this. Soldiers, they're now civilians and soldiers, they go back and forth, but nobody's dealing with this issue because we are still in the traumatic stage. We're not in the post-traumatic stage yet, because we are still in the event, in the war.
Yeah.
So how does that affect the family of the IDF soldier, and how does that affect like the individual?
What happens to society when you have in it tens of thousands of people who are shell-shocked, post-traumatic, in a society that carries weapons, in a society that is in a constant state of alertness and war? That is a scary thought. And when you think about what happens on a society level, what happens to marriages when people that are dealing with post-trauma from war, from what they've seen, bring that into their marriage? What happens to families? What happens to kids that their father comes home or their mother comes home and they're dealing with trauma, they wake up screaming in the middle of the night. They're present but non-present individuals. They sit at the dinner table with a hollow look in their eyes and are not there. There's a lot of prayer and a lot of healing that's needed for that. We have a lot of soldiers that this is their, fourth, fifth war, that have been fighting wars. And it sounds bizarre to say this. I've been in armed conflict since I was in my late teens. And again, thankfully, I had a lot of intervals in between. I have people in my unit now, they've fought in repeated wars in Lebanon, in Gaza, time and time again, through their 20s, 30s, and now into their 40s. And so it's not a one-time event. This is a repeated event that every time, if they're carrying trauma from one of those conflicts. I have a soldier who was now back with us in reserves. The guy lost like a substantial number of his friends in Lebanon, in the Second Lebanon War, 2006. Some very, very dramatic battles that took place there. He was in one of those big battles as a regular before he was in reserves. And he still carries that event with him. And so it affects the way he looks at life, it affects the way he looks at events, the threat of the enemy, etc. And you have to be dealing with that as a unit, as a fighting force. His family needs to deal with that. Israeli society needs to deal with that person. Times 50,000, exactly. Not times one.
No, it's a need, and the government cannot do it alone. So this is something that is important to understand. I
think that's a recurring theme, though, Yael. Every time we have these conversations in every topic, it's like first responders, the government can't deal with it alone.
Right, that's
mental help or emotional help, you can't deal with it alone. Even gearing up the army in the early days of the war, it's like, what country in the world has had to, I said this seriously, has survived a war on 6, 7 fronts at the same time? No country in modern history.
So how can you tell our viewers to pray for this situation?
There's a lot of prayer that's needed. And I'd say I'd start from the far to and then end at home. The most distant one is the people of Iran. Pray for the people of Iran. They deserve our prayers, they deserve our care, they deserve us caring for them. Secondly, pray for our leaders. President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, and I say this, although we as Jews love criticizing our leadership, they're fighting a war that is just and it is difficult and is complex, and they need all our prayers and all our support. And then for the families of the people of Israel, for your children, for my children, for the families of this country, you have your daughters, they haven't gone to school normally yet in their life. It's always been in a war. My youngest son has never, because of COVID, among other things, hasn't had a single year of normal schooling. He's finishing the 5th grade in his entire life. It's always this extreme situation of there's war, there's some kind of emergency, one or another. It's for families that have gone on without a father being present for a very long amount of time. And when the father comes home, he's not the same person. Or he's exhausted, or
he's not coming home enough.
Or he's not home enough. One of my daughters told me to my face, she said, you're never home. And she knows why. It's not, that I choose to be without them, but I'm never home. And that's simply reality, and there's nothing you can even say to that, because there's no end in sight. I have multiple more years of mandatory reserve service. It's not even a volunteer point. And again, I'm proud to serve, but still, there's a toll on the families. And then I think, one of my big fears is for the hearts of the people of Israel, that we don't harden our hearts, that we don't become hateful, we don't become vengeful, that we don't become the enemies that we've fought so hard to vanquish.
Exactly. Well, appreciate you sharing, Mati. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yael.
And to you back at home, first of all, pray for the situation. And if you want to support and help the IDF soldiers during this traumatic state with, counseling for the families, for the soldiers themselves, you can go to fidf.org/Yair. That's my name, Y-A-I-R. So fidf.org/Yair. And Friends of the IDF, this is the organization that is supporting the IDF soldiers. Before this war started, for many years I know them, they are doing great jobs. This is your opportunity to help in a practical way the IDF soldiers in Israel. And this is exactly the point. Behind the big picture, there are real people. Behind every sortie, every strike, every interception, every destruction of a launcher, every hit on a runway, there are also soldiers here guarding a home. And there are families carrying the price with them. And according to the information that we receive, another 80,000 reservists were called up for this operation, in addition to the tens of thousands already inside the Gaza Strip, the borders with Lebanon, with Syria, Judea and Samaria. And that means that this war is not only a story of the Air Force, it is also a story of families that are left behind, of businesses that stop, of livelihoods that are hit, of people who leave everything in order to be here in Israel and then to defend this nation. And therefore, there is now also a very practical way to stand beside these reservists, not with another symbolic gesture, not with another beautiful sentence, but with real assistance. This assistance includes essential medical equipment, economic relief for reserve families whose income has been harmed, direct support for critical units such as the Home Front Command and the Air Force, as well as the air defensive arrays, emotional and mental support, and direct assistance for soldiers who are in real distress during their service. It also goes down to the most basic level: food vouchers, special grants, and commanders' funds that make it possible to help soldiers according to real immediate need and with dignity. So if you want to stand beside Israel's reservists right now, the link will appear here on the screen, fidf.org/Yair. 100% of the donations in this campaign are sent to Israel with no overhead. And what's happening now in front of Iran? Iran is no longer only a story of flames in the skies over Tehran. It is also a test of endurance, of national depth, of Israel's ability to keep applying pressure from the air, from the sea, and from intelligence, and at the same time to sustain the people on the ground. This campaign has already changed the Middle East completely. Iran has been worn down in the air, at sea, in the launch chain, at the centers of power. But even now, with all the achievements, the truth must be told. The Iranian regime still exists, still threatens, still looks for how to break the pressure, and still has not said its last word. So what's happening now against Iran? It's not just a struggle over skies. It's not a struggle over launchers or runways. It's also a test of the spirit, of stamina, and of the people who are holding the line here at home. And the big question from here on is not how much more can it still hit Iran, how much more bombs can we drop on the facilities of the military infrastructure of the Ayatollah regime, but what will break first, the pace of the fire, the chain of command, or the regime itself. And now, let's pray for the situation, because our Father in heaven is protecting us, and He knows what's happening. I've been in the Gaza Strip together with the IDF, just this war on October 7th. I got injured. But one thing I knew all along is that God is keeping me safe. I had the peace in my heart that only comes through knowing God and knowing that He's with me. So let's pray that this peace that God gave me, let's pray that He will give it to all the IDF soldiers that are deployed in multiple fronts. If it's Lebanon, Judea and Samaria, the Gaza Strip. Let's pray for Mati Shoshani and his family. Let's pray for all the innocent lives that are affected by these conflicts. Let's pray for wisdom to our leaders. Let's keep praying for God's will to be done here. And let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Hello, this is Mati here in Jerusalem with TBN Israel.
This is Yair Pinto from TBN Israel here in Jerusalem. TBN Israel is keeping viewers informed with Israel-focused news, culture, and what God is doing in this land.
Support TBN Israel today online at tbn.org/Israel. Thank you.